Hello and welcome to post-match reaction to the Crusaders versus the Highlanders, and it finished 38-14. An absolutely dominant performance by the Crusaders in the second half really wrapped this one up. Hi, I'm Paul, the guy behind DrivingMaul, your best place for predictions and opinion, and to join me to go through all of the action is the real Mike Pullman. How are you doing, sir?
Doing good, man. How are you? Thank you for having me on the show.
Not so bad, not so bad. Got a nice warm fire going, which is good, because it's obviously kind of nippy here. And they talked about that at the beginning of the game, that it was going to be cold, dew coming in, all of that kind of stuff. But I think there was a bit of messy handling, but I think that was more down to nerves and pressure than it was down to any kind of weather conditions.
Yeah, definitely. So I didn't quite catch that. You dropped out. My bad.
I dropped out? Oh, no worries. Anyway, getting on to the game. Initially, the Highlanders just couldn't get out of their own half, gave a penalty, which the Crusaders kicked, and that was only after 1 minute. So it was a really early score by the Crusaders there for a deliberate knock on in the tackle. Surprised they went to post so early, or do you think it was the right choice at that point?
Oh yeah, definitely the right choice. I mean, it's finals football. It wouldn't have surprised me if they had gone for the corner, but I think Sam Whitelock pretty calm head. He's been in this position many times, so yeah, lots of good take the free that early in the match, and when you got a guy like Mwanga on the tee, you'd back him every time.
Yep, you did, and it was kind of interesting that when we had the first scrum this season, that we've had Moody, Franks, and Taylor in the front row for the Crusaders. That's a shocking story of injuries, isn't it?
Oh yeah, a lot of injury, and certainly something that gave other players in that side an opportunity, and they didn't impress. And I think the pressure would have been on Franks and Co coming into this, whether they admit that or not. But they did pretty well, really.
No, you're right. They did. They were either had parity or they dominated at scrum time. The line out was a bit harem scarum for both sides, more so for the Highlanders than the Crusaders. But the set piece was up and down this evening. The Highlanders, though, after that score, really came into it and had the better of the first half. Let's be honest. They had a try disallowed after they took a quick tap and go from a free kick at a scrum, which saw Hemapo go close, but second movement to put it on the line. I was happy with that TMO call.
Yeah, every day of the week.
We then also had another penalty for offside, where and then the Ioane hit the post, and it didn't fall nicely for the Highlanders. So it really felt from that all the way up to about that sort of the first quarter of an hour that they really needed to get some points, because they were dominating, sat in the Crusaders' half, but the Crusaders were defending very resolutely.
Yeah, they were. I mean, early on in that game, the Highlanders had 68% possession and even more territory. So, they had to come away with points. And as always, this Crusaders' defence is just so solid, especially in its own red zone. But eventually the Highlanders broke through, and Wasaki Nahola was really impressive for me. I mean, those chip kicks into his corner, he was probably a wee bit slow off the mark. Maybe he wasn't expecting them. He managed to regather one of them, I think, but he was just a bit too close to the line. And great tackle by David Havili as well.
Yeah, they must have had about 3 or 4 crossfield kicks to his wing. We had Aaron Smith chipping through. We had quite a lot of chips over by the Highlanders. Highlanders clearly thought there was space in behind that Crusaders defence, because they do rush up, making it very difficult to get that ball out wide. So the way you do it, just kick over them and try that. And in that first half, it worked to a degree. The scramble defence was just good enough by the Crusaders to survive it, but you could see what the Highlanders were trying to do there. As you say, they got that first try. Tompkinson in the corner after some good work. I can't remember if it was I think it was Thompson on the inside or Walden, one of those two, took two players out, offloaded, and then Ben Smith timed his pass lovely for Tompkinson to go in the corner. And for me to be a little bit humble, well, me to say that the concerns I had over the fact of playing a midfielder out wide didn't come to pass. They didn't miss Lee out there.
Yeah, that didn't, and it was great patience really that led to that try. And what I really liked about the Highlanders at the start of this match, it was just their composure. That they were going forward, they were breaking tackles, and quite often, especially in games like this, when that happens, you can kind of get a bit ahead of yourself and knock the ball on or make a mistake. And they didn't do that really in that first half, apart from a couple of lineouts and that first try, I think, was probably their best moment of the night, really, just from that execution and composure standpoint.
Absolutely, and so they got that put the 3-7 up. I say they had to score that. I mean, they've been on top for a good 15 minutes up to that point. It was lineouts were shocking from both sides in that first half, but after a scrum penalty, we saw the Crusaders go to the corner, and we accuse the Brumbies of being boring by scoring by off line-out mauls. But 3 of the 5 tries that the Crusaders scored tonight were from line-out mauls. So, in this case, the line-out maul actually got stopped. It got spun inside, and there were just too many defenders to match up against, or too many attacking players to match up against, which they shouldn't have been in that situation. Bridge just calmly took the ball from Mo'unga and over he went.
Yeah, it did, and the Crusaders' line out and DrivingMaul was superb all night long, even in that first half. You're not going to beat the Crusaders if you can't nullify that. So it wasn't really much of a surprise that they managed to score off that once again.
Yeah, sorry, I don't think it was Bridge. It was actually Havili who scored that one. Sorry, wrong player. Bridge was part of the next try. Looked like everyone was taking care of him. Got the offload away, which was fantastic. Quick pair of hands from, I think it was Fetu Douglas to Mo'unga, who crossed over out wide. Then realised that he had to kick the conversion, so ran around Aaron Smith to get close to the sticks and make it nice and easy for himself. And suddenly at 17-7, you were thinking, "Oh, this one's about to start running away from us if we're not careful."
Oh yeah, definitely. But George Bridge, he's like a lot of the other wingers in this country. Naholo, Ioane, for example. They managed to break that first tackle, and then they'll break the next one. But they get the arms free and they find the support with them. And then Fetu Douglas. I mean, this guy since going to the Crusaders has just been fantastic. So he played a part in that, but it really did come from George Bridge, and it's just a shame, I guess, that from George Bridge's All Black perspective, it's probably behind a wee bit in terms of maybe Naholo will play, but there's Braden Eno and that, so he needed a good game tonight, and he had that, and that moment was telling.
Yeah, I think injuries have meant that other players have been given the opportunity, and they've grabbed it with both hands. Let's be honest. As you say, Braden Eno, Sevu Reece have both played very well since he's been out. So at that point, it looked like the Crusaders could easily run away with it. The Highlanders came back, had a lot of possession, with lots of chips over, lots of attempts to go close. Hemapo got held up over the line, and Franklin and Hemapo were having a good half of rugby here in the locks. Both of them were breaking tackles, collecting balls, and were looking really kind of dangerous. And eventually, it took Walden to break one tackle, and then he went over to get the try. I think that was off the back of a scrum. And there've been a number of 5-metre scrums. Again, the Highlanders made a lot of work to get the points, whereas the Crusaders, as you say, in that first half had 42% of possession, 36% territory, and yet were leading 17-14 at half time.
Great decision by was it Walden, the try scorer there, to dive down after breaking the tackle. He knew that momentum would get him over the line, and I just felt that in that first half, as good as the Highlanders were, they probably left one try out there, and obviously People will look at the Hemapo double movement, but I think Naholo could have maybe got himself a try if he had been a bit quicker off the mark with one of those corner kicks. So, and you are, missing the penalty as well. You've got to take points when they are on offer, and that penalty and that double movement were two moments in particular where it was execution that stopped them.
Absolutely. I think the Highlanders had the opportunity, had the possession and the territory to give themselves the opportunities. 90% tackling by the Crusaders meant they weren't falling off many tackles. So the Highlanders really had to manufacture their opportunities, and they needed to manufacture a couple more, and they just didn't manage to do it. Quick for the halftime team talk. Don't forget that you can become a supporter of DrivingMaul. Down below in the notes is a link to patreon.com/DrivingMaul, where I provide exclusive opinion videos for my supporters. It's only $1 a month, and the latest video is looking at the different character of the domestic domestic competitions around the world. So go check that out and become a supporter of DrivingMaul. Thank you very much. Into the second half then, from the kickoff, the Crusaders really showed what they were about. The Highlanders kicked off the Crusaders, and the Crusaders took it all the way down to the Highlanders' try line with relative ease. They then gave up the ball. We had Coleman playing some really good play to grab a couple of turnovers and a couple of penalties. And a minute later, the Highlanders were back in the Crusaders' end. It was really end-to-end stuff, and no rest for either side in those open exchanges.
Yeah, it was. I mean, the Highlanders off the kick-off, they were sort of asleep for the first couple of phases, and it nearly cost them a try. But then they get the turnover, they got a penalty not long after that, and I think, but they missed a kick to touch, I think, as well of that penalty. So again, execution, and it kind of led to that moment that we're all gonna be talking about.
So yes, here we are. The Crusaders playing out their own half. Ball spins wide, and big hit by Liam Squire on the was it Fetu Douglas? I think it was again. And the initial thoughts are, wow, big hit. A bit slow with his arms, but because it's such a big hit, the guy's bounced off him, and therefore he's not been able to wrap. Look in slow motion, and no, you can see Squire clearly, in my mind anyway, leading with the shoulder in a shoulder charge. His right arm doesn't come round at all at any point, and to me, it's a pretty clear cut no arms tackle.
There's a couple of things to this. I mean, just dumb, all around dumb rugby from Liam Squire, and All Black who should know better. When you look at the situation of this tackle, him charging in like that actually exposed the Highlanders, the other defence's holes that the Crusaders would have been able to run through anyway. He didn't think about what he was doing. He charged in like a bull at the gate, made zero attempt, as you said, to wrap the arms. And hey, I any higher, I would have got a red card. I mean, and if you actually look at that, go back and look at the tape. After the Squire, the hit, other players in the Highlanders started putting in shoulders all over the park. It's just, when you're a leader, Paul, when you're one of your leaders in the team, an experienced All Black, does something like that, the effects that it has on the mentality of the players around are massive. And that was the moment that the game was lost for me.
Yeah, because from that, got to agree. Yeah, it was dumb play. It was always going to get picked up by the TMO and go back and be checked. There was never going to have that. But yeah, I mean, from that, in the 10 minutes he's off, the Crusaders go forward, score two tries, both off line-out mauls, where obviously the Highlanders are low in numbers at the line-out. The first one, they try some form of standoff and try and sack it, and it all just goes pear-shaped. They start complaining, but to be honest, I don't think they've got anything they could really complain about from that one. And yes, at 31-14 when he comes back, effectively, I mean, the game's all over, isn't it?
Yeah, that's all over, and I think Luke Whitelock can hold himself a wee bit accountable for how he acted as well, as captain in those moments. I mean, he was, everyone's talking about Tom Franklin swearing at the referee. Well, there were a few times that Luke Whitelock did it as well, and I think Yako Papa just had enough. They completely imploded at the end of, when Squire went off, and that first try of the two while Squire was in the bin. I mean, it's just the inability to, maybe they could have put it back in for the line out or something, but they just weren't able to transition from losing the line out to having anything like a solid base to defend the driving maul, and it went over like a deck of cards, and the reaction again from Whitelock, it's like, look at yourself, mate.
There were two of them there going. They arguing about the transition with Yako Piper. Yako Piper said he thought it was absolutely fine that the ball was there, and they said, but that's not the rules. And sorry, but at the end of the day, the laws of the game are whatever the ref says during the 80 minutes. And you can argue about it after 80 minutes, and there could be reviews, etc. But actually, whilst you're on the pitch, what the referee says is the laws of the game. End of the story. And the referee said it was fine, so you to just move on and get and play. We then had Moanga breaking through a couple of tackles really easily. When we've come to looking at the players at the end of the game, Rich Moanga actually had the most run meters out of anybody from the Crusaders this tonight, which is really unusual for your 10. But that, I think, probably shows something that happened here. We had no kicking for territory in this game at any point, pretty much. Just about all the kicks were kicks for to be contested, and and both teams were happy to play out of their own halves with the ball. So kicking for territory, and then and basically the catchers having a long run up before they meet the defenders. That wasn't there. So there's easy meters for players, which is why you're going to see that 62 metres, I think, was the highest run meters out of any player in this game.
Definitely, yeah.
So then we got the it ended up with the second line up, which is pushed to the sideline. Tafua peels off, gets tackled. The backs come in to win the ruck. Alatoa then just picks and goes. Over he goes, and it's 31-14. And at that point,
yeah, I mean that was the result again, though, of Highlanders players kind of, semi par defending, but falling off the maul and not having anybody else to cover. And you give somebody like Alatoa, with all that power, a wee bit of space, he'll go into the tackle with momentum, and then you got to wrap the arms. You've got to get the arms in these tackles, and his arm was free. He just reached over and put it down.
Yep. Then we had, and as you say, this is really, during this time, the Highlanders really kind of imploded, fell apart, and they never got it back together again. We saw Josh Ioane kicking for the corner. Now, he'd missed one earlier, as you said. This time he decided to be overly safe, and a kick that should have been 7-8 metres out ends up being sort of more like 15-20 metres out for the line out. His confidence was shot at that point. As you say, we had Franklin swearing at the ref. Now, Dylan Hartley has got red carded for swearing at the ref in a Premiership final. So Franklin, in all honesty, got away pretty lightly here with this one. So with that penalty, and with the Highlanders imploding, we saw some real flowing rugby and offloads from the Crusaders. It didn't end up in a try, but they felt confident just to try anything at that point, didn't they?
Yeah, Richie Moanga was fantastic. I think, as I said on Twitter, he's always going to be the second choice 10, but he was fantastic tonight. And the moment for me that stood out for him was, he ran straight at two of the biggest defenders in the Highlanders line, and he just smashed through them. So he is a a confidence player and somebody who shows you each and every week that he trusts his instincts and he doesn't really worry about the consequences. It's a wee bit like Damien McKenzie in a way, but with a slightly more composure and a wee bit more upper chest power. So yeah, really great stuff from Mo'unga in particular, I felt.
Yep, and he got the final try, kick over the top, bit of a wicked bounce for Banks, Marty Banks, and then gets robbed by Mo'unga, who puts it down over the line. And that was icing on the cake, 38-14. It was the Highlanders were never coming back anyway, because in that second half, the Crusaders had 67% possession, 60% possession, 67% territory. So two-thirds of all the territory in possession. And they scored 3 tries or 3 converted tries and didn't give up any points at all to the Highlanders. A dominant performance, and all you can do is just tip your hat to them, really.
Yeah, you can tip your hat to them, but I also think that considering some of the players in this Highlanders side and their experience, you expect a wee bit better after half time. I just felt that there was no, once they lost Squire, there was no plan B. It's almost like they didn't factor in what would happen if they were 1 man down. And when you come up against a side with such a strong All Black forward pack, you typically your yellow cards are going to be in the forwards, and you gotta plan for that, and they just clearly didn't. Crusaders, I think they can, if they can get through next week and go over home semi, it's going to be hard to see them losing at home.
It is hard to see them losing at home, absolutely. We've waxed lyrical about Rich Mo'unga. 11 carries, 64 metres, meant he carried the ball more than anyone else in the Crusaders and for more metres than anybody else. Kieran Reid, relatively quiet, but got through 9. They weren't eye-catching carries, but he got through 9 carries. Todd and Douglas also got through a bunch of carries as well in that forward pack. Sever Rees, very, very quiet game tonight. Only 4 carries. Had that sort of one break in the first half where he chipped it back inside, but that was the Highlanders managed to keep him quiet at least.
Yeah, they did, and I think they also did the likes of Owen Frakes and Sam Whitelock. Maybe not so much in the scrum and the mauls, but in general play, they hit their tackles on those guys in particular. On the Highlanders side, I felt that.
We'll get on to them in a second. I was going to say, because Bridge, we talked about, has had that good game back. Havili, a bit of a mixed game, considering the unquiet game. And those are 3 guys that we're talking about sort of Enor, Bridge, Havili, Rees. Those are all guys we're talking about as being fringe All Blacks who might be making the airplane to Japan. So, it's going to be interesting watching those 4 over the next week or 2.
Definitely.
Defensive wise for the Crusaders as well, Moody got through a shift. Matt Todd, 10 tackles, none missed. There's a guy who will be on the plane, but won't get much game time in Japan, I wouldn't have thought. But yeah, he has been an absolute servant for this Crusaders side, definitely. On the Highlanders side, we mentioned that Hemapo and Franklin had a good first half each, 8 carries and 6 carries each. But which players were you looking at highlighting?
Oh, Hemapo I thought was fantastic all through the game. Joshua, again, the game was gone, but he remained composed throughout, apart from missing his kicks and that. But Walden, great, and I forget the name of the other one, but.
So Walden and Thompson in the centres, I thought had a good game between them. It's difficult having you've got Thompson and you've got Tom Kinson, which and you've got 3 Dixons in the side as well. I mean, sorry, but what is it with it down south? Can't they have different different names. But yeah, Ty Walden and Rob Thompson. I mean, Rob Thompson's been a more heralded one, and a lot of people have said that he should have been should be in the sort of All Blacks frame. But I thought Ty Walden had a really good night tonight. He got that try that we mentioned in the first half, and he carried well. And also, with his 10 tackles, only one missed. He was a top tackle count, and Crossie had a real quiet game, didn't he? Which gives you, with Ty Walden opposite him, shows that Walden was defensively very sound.
Yep.
The discipline obviously had that yellow card, but apart from that, there weren't that many penalties for on either side really. Jakob Piper's going to take some flack for that yellow card, but I don't think he should do. I think he had a good game tonight, and let the players decide it. I don't think he was the person that decided this game at all.
No, I think it's ludicrous. I mean, I've seen some of I think it's trending on social media at the moment, him and Justin Marshall, but I mean, yeah, I thought he had a pretty good game, and I mean, people need to look at that tackle. There are two things people need to go and look at. They need to look at that tackle again that Liam Squire made that deserved the yellow. Any higher, it should have been a red. But secondly, the decision to penalise Franklin for swearing, good on him. I mean, we seriously, what kind of game do we want rugby to be? We want to encourage kids to respect the referee. And when you see players at the top level not respecting the referee, they need to be punished. So well done, Jakob Piper, from me.
Absolutely. So for the Crusaders, it's sit down and watch the Highlanders versus the Bulls. Sorry, no, the Hurricanes versus the Bulls. I'm sorry, Hurricanes versus the Bulls tomorrow night to see who they're going to be hosting in Christchurch next weekend. For the Highlanders, well, it was a night where a lot of players played their final games. I think we were talking about. I think it was Franklin's last game. It was obviously Ben Smith's last game. Naholo is heading overseas. Lomax obviously heading up to the Hurricanes. Who else was? It's Marty Banks' last game. I think he's heading back to Japan after this, and a few others. So it's definitely Luke Whitelock and Squire both going as well. So it really is going to be actually in Hamapo, isn't he? Thinking about it.
Yeah.
So when you look at that, we are talking about half this team are disappearing at this is their last run out for the Highlanders. So it really is going to be a rebuilding year for them next year, isn't it?
Yeah, they're going to struggle next year, I think, without some of those guys. I think Aaron Smith being there will, I think his their years will be huge for the Highlanders next year, just from that, that experience standpoint. But Marty Banks will not be happy with how he signed off this year. I don't think for the Highlanders, and he had next to no impact coming off the bench. But opportunity, the departure of these guys will provide opportunity for these younger guys. Obviously, Pete Gatlin will be fit and ready to go. There's every chance that Mitchell Hunt will be down there as well. So yeah, it's going to be a bit short on experience, but certainly opportunity, and I think the Highlanders just need to find a way to, like all teams, apart from the Crusaders, win in Christchurch. It's not like they don't know how to do it. It's not like they haven't had to practice at doing it. It's time.
Yeah, no, that's They gave it a good bash, especially in that first half, but found that defence to be too hard to break down. As you say, it's going to be a rebuilding year next year for them, so they'll be looking at doing what as best they can. Anyway, thank you very much for joining me, Michael. You will be hosting tomorrow morning for the Jaguares versus the Chiefs post-match reaction with Herman. I will be at Kelly Tarleton's with my girls probably, so I'm going to miss that one, but I'll catch up later. So thank you very much for doing that. Check out Real Mike Pullman at Real Mike Pullman on Twitter, also on YouTube as well with the Accidental Offside podcast. So check all those out. Thank you everybody for watching. Up there on the recording will be how to subscribe to the channel. Down there is how you get a support the channel, and over there are 2 videos that will the artificial intelligence here at YouTube says you'll enjoy. Just seen a message through from Cornflakes saying he couldn't disagree more with the Highlanders rebuilding. People have been saying that before they won the title, but they still perform. So clearly a video is going to be coming out soon between me and Steve as we talk about what the Highlanders will do next year, because clearly we have disagreement amongst the pundits already. Catch you all later.